Mingfei is a sweaty, disgusting loser with no friends, who just lives in his man cave all day, playing his favorite game, and is proud to be one of the top players to ever exist on the server. He's currently playing a match against his close friend who he met online, and is absolutely going ham on the keyboard like the little sweat he is. After, Mingfei wins the match, and his friend said goodbye. But poor Mingfei is sad to see no one is online to fuel his gaming needs. He pulls up the profile of his favorite catfish he fell in love with, and just before he's about to drool all over his smelly keyboard, he receives an invite from another top-tier player, who has the in-game name called Nano, and challenges Mingfei to a duel match. Upon receiving the invite, he instantly accepts it and they start the duel. When the match begins, Mingfei is stunned at the player's skills, as this was way more challenging than he expected. Due to this, Mingfei uses unbelievable wrist speed and mouse movements like you've never seen before, standing up out of the chair. But at this moment, Nano sends him a DM, predicting his next move in real time. And just then he loses the duel and his body freezes in shock. After, Mingfei sits there wondering who the hell this player was, and how they just managed to beat him like that. Upon checking the profile for more information, Mingfei realizes it's blank, so he logs off and stops playing. We then get a change of scene, and it turns out that the person who beat him was a girl called Chen Mo Tong. She's a ranked dragon slayer who is attending at the castle college, but she goes by the nickname Nano. Nano is driving around the city with a few of her friends from the castle college, and they find out that the principal of the college is interested in Mingfei, as he is apparently capable of being an S-rank student. But Mo Tong doesn't understand why, which is the reason why she wanted to challenge him in a duel to see what all the fuss was about. She gets annoyed because Mingfei has received a scholarship from the principal of Castle College, but thinks he doesn't belong at such a school, especially after beating him in a 1v1 match. Her friends are also confused and ask Nano to find out more about him, so she logs onto the Castle College AI system called Eva. Eva greets Nano, and she starts asking questions about Mingfei's life, hobbies, and personal interests. She found out that Mingfei has no friends at school, little to no presence in life, and only likes to play video games. He was also abandoned by his parents when he was younger, and now lives with his aunt and uncle, who pick on him all day, along with his mean cousin named Mingzei. Mingfei likes to troll Mingzei by pretending to be a girl online, and dates him in the game for revenge. His aunt and uncle shout at him to start making some money soon, otherwise no colleges will accept him, and he will be a brain-dead, no-life chump without any future. Nano finds out Mingfei also has a crush on a girl he likes at school named Chen Wenwen. However, Nano wants to know more about his dreams and inspirations and where he sees himself in the future. But upon checking his dreams in life, Eva informs her that he only wants to be a simple worker at a newsstand, so he can make just enough money to update his games and stay online for as long as he can. After hearing this, Nano is taken aback and her friend nearly swerves out of the lane, as they are all confused as to how the principal wants him in the college, as he's nothing but a lonely shut-in, dreaming about catfish cuties. After being kicked out the house to get some groceries and items for the house, he stumbles across the mailbox and asks the guy if he has any letters for him, and he receives some new letters and a package containing a device letting him know that he was rejected by the international university, but has another letter accepting him into the castle college. It reads that he will be mentored by Professor Guderian, the one who sent this specifically for him. He thinks this must be a dream and tries to wake himself up, but it was in fact a reality and a real letter, so the boy rushes home to tell his family. When they read the letter, they think it was some kind of joke, and his aunt loses the plot as she thinks he must have forged a fake letter and tells him he's nothing but a little brat. His cousin Mingzei tells him there's no way he's getting into that college, as people who attend that academy are normally human hybrids, or people born half human and half magic. So how can he even attend this place? Mingzei tells them all about a guy called Chu Zai Heng, a famous human hybrid who is known for being one of the strongest students in the entire Castle Academy. Mingzei states that nobody can even compare themselves to a person like Chu Zai Heng. But just in that moment, Mingfei enters in a dreamlike state while his folks argue about him. And in this dream, a helicopter rises up to their apartment and a man steps out, who happens to be the one and only Chu Zai Heng, inviting Mingfei to join the academy. And he even bows down before him, calling Mingfei his master and that they have been waiting a long time to see him. However, he gets out of the daydream and back to reality, and thinks that maybe his family is right about all this, and maybe someone was playing a joke on him, so he starts to walk away. But right then the device that was inside the letter starts to ring, and his aunt informs him that the person on the line wants to interview Mingfei tomorrow about the recent acceptance of the Castle College, and their faces drop. Later on, Mingfei speaks to his best friend online, and he seems to be the only person who's excited to hear about the news, and gives him some tips on how to present himself in the interview. The next day, Mingfei arrives at the building located in the main city for the interview, and upon arriving, he is surprised to see some of his fellow classmates from his previous school, as they seem to have also gotten the same letter. And one of the students is his long-life crush, a girl called Chen Wenwen. As they all wait in line for the interview, Mingfei asks Wenwen how she ended up here, and also gives her some confidence, telling her not to be nervous as she's an amazing speaker, and the top of all her classes back in high school. And after she thanks him, the interviewer takes them in, one by one, and after some time they eventually get to Mingfei. He has spent the previous day repeating several interviewer questions and answers in his head, so he doesn't mess it up. But when the examiner asks him the questions, they say things that are completely random, like if he believes in aliens, which completely threw him off guard, as he was expecting they would ask him something normal, like where he grew up and his life story. But one of the other interviewers, who is typing up the answers, told him he didn't care about his life and only wants him to answer these simple questions as they are extremely important. After that, Mingfei told the guy that he does believe in aliens, and that every night he looks up into the night sky and stares at the stars, and told them that the universe is too wide and that there must be life beyond Earth and on other planets out in the galaxy somewhere. After these random questions, he gets up and leaves, apologizing to the examiners, and said he must have signed up to the wrong college, and exits the building. While he walks outside, we see a man storm into the building and confronts both examiners about Mingfei and how the interview went. But they told the man, who happens to be the Professor Guderian, that Mingfei has just quit the interview after the first question, so the man rages at these two, saying how they should have begged him to stay and that they must call the cell phone and bring him back. But the interviewer is confused why the professor is so angry at him leaving. While walking home, Mingfei saw Wenwen and she asks Mingfei if he wants to go to the graduation party together, and Mingfei accepts. Mingfei hopes to get married to Wenwen one day, and spend the rest of his days with her and live somewhere in the city and settle down now, as he thinks he just messed up the chance to enter the Castle College. But when he gets home, his aunt tells him that a man called Guderian called them and that Mingfei has passed the interview and can enroll in the Castle College. The next day they head back to the building to speak to Professor Guderian, and this time his aunt, uncle and cousin join him as they need to discuss his studies. His aunt immediately wants to know about the money and where he will be staying, and the teacher tells her that his scholarship will be gifted with the $36,000 into his bank each year, and he will sleep at the academy. After hearing such a large amount, his aunt begs him to join them, and tells the professor he will attend immediately. The professor tells them that the reason they want Mingfei is because Mingfei is apparently a rare, 100-year-old talent stored within his soul. But this confuses his aunt and uncle, but he then brings out a letter written by Mingfei's mother and father, and it turns out they were honorary students of the Castle Academy, and gives the letter to him. Mingfei is in shock as he always thought they just abandoned him for no reason. But all along they were away studying at the school the whole time. He excuses himself from the table and heads into the toilets crying as he reads the contents inside the letter. His mother explains what happened to them and why she left him that night, and that she has always loved him and is the only thing she truly cares about, but due to her bloodline she had to attend the Castle College. She also told the professor that when her son Mingfei is of age, she wanted to request for the principal to give him a scholarship and wishes him nothing but a good life. At this moment, Nano approaches him, as he was crying inside the girls' bathroom, and she tells him that he should probably leave this building if he's going to cry like that, and escorts him back to the meeting. Once he gets back, the professor asks him what he thinks about enrolling into the school, but he tells him that he needs more time. However, upon hearing this decision, Nano tells them all that the reason for Mingfei's hesitation is due to a girl he has a crush on and doesn't want to leave her behind. This shocks Mingfei, and is totally surprised that she might know Chen Wenwen. But then she explains how she just guessed it randomly. But after that, she gives herself away on who she really is, as she said something that she said to him in the duel match that night in the game, and he instantly remembers it and figures out that Motong is actually Nano, and the same person who managed to beat him in the game. After he sits on the rooftop and wonders how she knows so much about his private affairs, and begins to take out his phone and starts to confess his feelings towards Chen Wenwen. But as he's doing this, Nano appears behind him, startling him. She tells him that Eva, the artificial intelligence, can easily locate his location, and she came here from orders of the Professor Guderian to try and convince him on joining the academy one last time. But Mingfei hesitates again, all because of his crush Wenwen, and tells Nano that he loves her and that he can't leave her behind, until he tells her his feelings. However, Nano tells him that she knows that Wenwen doesn't like him back and that he will ruin his chance on joining the academy for someone who doesn't even love him back. But he still thinks he has a chance, as she offered to go to the party with him. After, Nano tries explaining to him all the reasons why he's making the wrong choices in life, and then said that if he does not join now, then this will affect him forever. The next day, Mingfei meets with Chen Wenwen for the graduation party for tomorrow, buying some supplies for the party. But while they're out, Nano approaches him again, advising him to immediately leave Wenwen. She said that the professor is leaving tonight, so he must make his decision by then. However, Mingfei has already planned out to confess his feelings to Wenwen at the graduation party, so he refuses her offer again. After, Mingfei is seen practicing his confession in the mirror for quite some time, so he will be ready for tomorrow. As Mingfei doesn't have a penny to his name, he picks flowers out of the ground to give to Wenwen. While the party was about to begin, his friend Zhao Mengu brings him a suit. After putting on the suit, he heads towards the main stage for the graduation and greets two other students who are also wearing suits, as they have been hired by Zhao Mengu. After, Mingfei plans his next move and decides to head onto the stage with the flowers to confess his love. However, just as he is about to say his speech, Zhao Mengu walks out with some flowers in hand and makes his confession to Chen Wenwen. All this time, Zhao Mengu was playing a prank on him, and what's even worse is that Chen Wenwen was in on it. And she too expresses her feelings towards Zhao Mengu in front of Mingfei, and they start dating right there. Mingfei stands in complete silence, feeling the betrayal of his close friend, and is completely heartbroken. While Mingfei is feeling deep sadness and rejection, suddenly, Nano appears in the most beautiful outfit, making his classmates gasp in surprise as she elegantly walks down the steps of the graduation ceremony. Nano approaches Mingfei with her subordinates and claps her hands to signal the girls to change his outfit. After, the gorgeous Nano locks arms with Mingfei, while expressing to Wenwen and Zhao Mengu that Mingfei has more important things to do than to be here. And this annoys Mengu, so Nano tells them both that this is the last time they will ever see this version of Mingfei, and walks out the building. Nano tells him it's okay to look back at her one last time, but Mingfei refuses and doesn't turn around like an alpha Chad. After they leave, they drive for quite some time until their car runs out of gas. They stop somewhere to wait for the tank to refuel, but here is where Nano tells Mingfei that she cannot fail the principal or professor in not getting Mingfei to join Castle Academy. But Mingfei thanks Nano for not giving up on him and reconsiders, and wants to join the Castle College. So Nano informs Eva about his decision, and after Eva greets Mingfei for the first time and gives him all his current statistics, calling him an S-rank student, along with a student ID code and all the information about the college. Just then Nano crowns him, naming him a king of the college even though he hasn't done anything yet, so he gets overwhelmed with this news. She tells him that people have been crowned before him like his parents, however people would kill for the crown and even die for it. However, she submits to him and tells him that she will be his personal subordinate and guide him with knowledge that she has learned over the years of studying inside the college, so he gladly accepts her as a friend. Eva saves all of Mingfei's information onto the system for him to use, and this notifies all the other students who are attending the Castle College. A few days later, we see Mingfei at the airport, where he asks the officer about the CC line that he is supposed to take to get to the college, but the officer says that there is no such line, and that he doesn't entertain beggars. Mingfei looks at himself and his $20 and says that he is not a beggar, but then looks around to see a bunch of other beggars who look exactly like him with all the ragtag luggage on their back. The officer tells him to go to the Chinese embassy and ask for accommodation and food there, and then walks away, leaving him feeling more and more like a scammed NPC. He decides to go to McDonald's to get a burger, but gets refused service as they don't serve beggars either. Just then, he meets a silver-haired boy named Finger, and I'm sure ladies in the comments would love to meet him, but turns out he's broke, as well as he asks Mingfei for some money to buy some soda. He looks at his hands and notices the Castle College card in his hand and asks him if he was a student there, and takes out a similar card himself. He says that he is his senior and then takes his money just for the sake of it. Later that night, they both sit together and Finger reveals that he is in his 8th year, and typically a student graduates in 4 or 5 years, but he had to repeat a grade 4 times in a row because he's just that awesome. They both sit down at the metro station and wait for the CC line that they are meant to board in order to get to the college. Finger explains that the college is hidden in a valley and the easiest way to get to it is by the CC line unless you own a private jet and have permission from the headmaster. They wait until midnight before they fall asleep, and Mingfei has a dream where he finds himself in a war with people running in robes, and then he wakes up to see a big moon outside the station's window and a young boy sitting beside him on the ground. The boy looks at him and speaks to him as if he knows who Mingfei is, and calls him a brother, but then Mingfei wakes up again and finds out that he just had a dreamception. Just then, Finger wakes up as well and says that the CC line is here, and they both hear a man walking towards them with a bell in his hands. The guy announces that the CC 1000 express train is here and all students are to board it with their luggage and tickets. Finger walks up to him and the guy tells him that he didn't expect to see his failure of a face there, and Finger says that he has been demoted once again and has made the record of consecutive demotions, making him come down from grade A to an F after that. Mingfei also walks up to the conductor and tells him that he is a new student named Mingfei. Hearing his name, the conductor starts freaking out and asks if he really is the new S-grade student, and asks why hasn't the professor arrived in his plane to pick him up. Hearing this, Finger freaks out as well and asks if that is all true, and then Mingfei himself freaks out because he doesn't want to feel left out. With that, he checks in and the whole airport lights up and the underground passageway opens up for him, and the CC 1000 express train arrives with Professor Good popping out of it like Mario. They all board the train as the students change into their uniforms, and the professor asks Mingfei to sign an NDA as is customary for all students of the college because they study some special subjects here that aren't taught anywhere else in the world. After that, the professor explains that they study about dragons and asks Mingfei about his opinion on them. He says that they are just legendary creatures, part of various myths and stories, but the professor says that they are real and humans, and dragons have been at war for a very long time, but normal people don't know, and here at Castle College they study ways to kill dragons and produce heroes who can help mankind. After hearing him out, Mingfei says that perhaps the professor needs a mental doctor rather than a dragon slayer. But then he suddenly faints and has a dream about the same young boy who tells him that dragons are real and show him a scene with a real dragon atop an ice-covered peak, and explains that long ago, a human killed the Dragon King on its throne and he became the first human emperor. And when the dragon died, everyone celebrated, and it is because of the human hero that civilization has managed to advance so far. With that, he vanishes and Mingfei comes back to his senses. He wakes up and tells the professor that maybe he is crazy, but the professor brings in one of his associates who brings 2 boxes with himself. The man says that in his 40 years of career life, Mingfei is the second S-grader he has seen, and sadly the first one ice-skate himself with Truck Kun. After that, they open the first box and show him a dragon scale and ask him to try shooting at it with a gun. Mingfei says that he has experience with guns thanks to his military training and takes a shot at it, but the bullet bounces off, showcasing the scale's toughness. Mingfei says that it can be some advanced tech and then goes on to look at the other box, which shows a baby dragon inside a capsule in a sleeping state. The professor tells him the story behind it, but Mingfei thinks that it's just an action figure and tells them to grow up already. He looks closely at the dragon and it suddenly wakes up and tries to break free, but thanks to the new nanotech case, it goes back to sleep without escaping. The professor says that it must have reacted to Mingfei's strong genetics, and he thinks that his ancestor, Andrew Tate, must be happy hearing this. After that, they all arrive at the college and Mingfei walks in with the professor. While walking through, he asks the professor why they didn't see any students there, and the professor starts wondering as well. Just then, air sirens start going off and the professor realizes that things are about to get crazy, and he takes Mingfei and starts running off to take cover behind a pillar. Suddenly, lots of young people come out from all sides wearing red and black suits. The 2 groups shoot at each other and the whole place turns into a war zone. The professor gets hit as well and he goes down early on. This crazy war continues until only one woman and the leaders are left from both groups. The leaders come out in the open and face each other off, revealing themselves to be the leader of the student union, Caesar, and the president of the Lionheart Society, Ziheng. They both start fighting each other like the opus protagonist from a fighting anime, and makes Mingfei look like the NPC he is in comparison. While they both get busy killing each other, the 2 girls come face to face with Mingfei in the middle, and the red team's girl turns out to be Nano. Nano points a gun at him and tells him to get down and takes a shot at the girl behind him. But she gets hit first, and it looks like the black team has won, but then Mingfei goes into Ultra Instinct by giving his body up to the young boy who has been appearing in his dreams, and they manage to shoot down the girl as well as the two leaders like a boss. After that, Mingfei sits down beside the pillar and gains control over his body, and suddenly a massive group of nurses and medics arrive on the scene and start treating everyone. Alongside them, a bald man in black suits walks in as well and complains about the waste of money that the students did with this event. Just then, the professor wakes up as well and explains that they use anesthetic paint bullets that mark their target and put them to sleep without actually damaging them, and that today was a free day at the college and the students decided to play an expensive game of paintball shooting to see who's better. After that, he falls back asleep due to exploding another bullet on his chest while explaining its function to Mingfei. The bald guy turns out to be Professor Man, who is in charge of finance and discipline at the college. He calls the principal to complain about the mess these students made out of his college, but the principal says that it's their right, and that the college will pay the $200,000+ in repair costs, and he regrets not being able to join them this year and will make sure to join them on free day the next time. After getting cheers from the student body, he asks if Mingfei is there and tells him to join his class and says his goodbye. Once the call is done, Professor Man tells him to go to his dorm unless he wants to die, as he notices the jealous, bloodthirsty stares of every student present there. Later on, Mingfei gets to his dorm and it turns out to be a big room for 2 people. His roommate is none other than Finger Senpai, and he offers to take him out and show him around the college on his first day. He takes him to different buildings inside the college and explains that on college grounds, no one can use spirit language thanks to Professor Man's dad, who lives in the watchtower and uses his powers to cast a barrier around the college. He then takes him to the only classroom where people can use spirit language, which is for teaching purposes, and explains that it is a kind of power that comes from resonating dragon language with dragon bloodline. Basically, you gotta have the blood of a mage and should know magical chants, or else you will be branded a muggle and sent to Harry Potter NPC verse. While walking through, they come across various students practicing their spirit language, and one of them accidentally loses control over his water spirit, but another student freezes it up and saves everyone else. Meanwhile, somewhere on an airship, the principal has a drink with his friend, Mance, and asks him about the students during the age of the last Dragon King. He then says that instead of soldiers this time he wishes to produce geniuses that can lead mankind into a new age of peace with no threat of dragons, and to that end he is willing to train Mingfei himself. After that, he asks him about a secret mission that they are going to start, and their airship continues moving forward towards their destination. Back at the college, Professor Good comes to pick Mingfei up and he takes him for his 3E exam. They all go to his room and the professor says that before the official exam he wants to test something and shows him a music box that has the Black Dragon Emperor's recording in it. He explains that all the people with dragon bloodline are from his subjects, and when he used to let out this roar, all the dragons under him would bow down and kneel in the direction of his throne. It is also the first step towards learning spirit language, and it makes humans with dragon bloodline hallucinate. He plays the recording and asks Mingfei if he saw anything, and Mingfei says that he only felt sleepy, and nothing in particular. Hearing this, the professor starts wondering how this could be given his grade S bloodline, and then runs out towards the library in a panic and calls Professor Man there as well. In the library, they study the old records and deduce that Mingfei could be someone at the Emperor's level, and could be someone with the White Dragon's bloodline. This makes things complicated, but Good says that he wants to keep this a secret so that his student does not end up in a lab. The following day, all the new students have their 3E exam and Mingfei just cheats his way out of it by copying the answers that he got from Finger Senpai. He also has a dream about the young kid who introduces himself as his brother, Mings, and Mingfei ends up sleeping for 2 hours in his 3-hour exam. What a chat. Later that night, Mingfei hears a bell and has a dream about Mings again, where the boy tells him that this is the bell of death, and it means that someone is about to die and he is going to get in trouble. But it can also be an opportunity and asks him for a perk. Mingfei thinks back on how Nano found him on the rooftop and says that he wants the ability to have his map open so he can see the location and layout of everything in the world. Mings grants it using a spell, and Mingfei wakes up for real with Finger calling out to him saying the emergency alarm has gone off. They all rush out and notice that all the grade and above students are to gather in the meeting hall, where the professors tell them that during a mission they found the palace of the Bronze Dragon King and 2 of their board members are stuck down there as the palace is continuously changing and making it hard for them to escape. They show them some pictures of dragon writing that they found in the palace and tell them to try and decode it in hopes of it showing a way out of there. There are only 20 minutes left and they are seeking help from all over the world, and with that all the students start taking shots at the code. Meanwhile, Mingfei looks around like a doofus and just notes how everyone else is doing their best while it being his first day in this new world. He doesn't know anything. He notices one of the new students who is great at trying her best as well and starts feeling even lesser about himself. Just then, he gets motivated and remembers about the open map he has and uses it to find the key to getting out of the palace and submits it. With that, they are able to send it to the people in the palace and find a way out for them. But it turns out that they don't have enough oxygen left to come to the shore. These two members are the same people who took Mingfei's interview for the college, and they both love each other. They give it their all to make it to the surface and deliver the cocoon that they retrieved from the palace, but on their way, they are attacked by one of the Dragon King's retainers, a sea dragon, and it ends up killing both of them, but not before they manage to deliver the cocoon to the higher-ups in the airship. The sea dragon starts chasing after them to get the cocoon back, but Mance fights back with full force to avenge his dead partners. It becomes a long chase where the sea dragon keeps feinting them and manages to kill Mance's secretary as well. In his grief, Mance shoots back at the beast with his machine gun, but it's all in vain. The airship starts losing power as well, and it looks like it will be the end for them all, but then Mance notices that they are near the dam and he commands the ship to go straight for it and make the sea dragon follow them and kill it by crushing it in between the dam's gates. Their plan ends up as a success, but not before the dragon manages to shoot one of its teeth through Mance's stomach. Later on, the principal announces that their mission was a success, and they managed to get their hands on important dragon writing and artifacts thanks to Mingfei and the other students' help. After that, the bell at the college rings indicating the death of some of their members. On their way out of the hall, Zheng thanks Mingfei for his contribution and invites him to join the Lionheart Society as his successor, but Mingfei refuses, saying he can't possibly take such a position. Back at the airship, the principal walks out and sits down with his dying friend. He reports back to him about the mission and tells him to keep the information about their loss from the students and to just tell them to look forward to their next. Besides that, he tells him to check upon his adopted daughter, Nano, as well to make sure she stays safe. Some days later, Mingfei receives an online invitation from Nano for a ball dance on behalf of the student union. Mingfei goes there alongside Finger and he tells him that the leader of the student union, Caesar, is going to be the heir to the famous Western Gattuso family. He is quite arrogant in his speech, and this looks like his way of inviting him in the student union, same as how Zheng invited him earlier. Mingfei says that he has no intention of joining, but Finger tells him to go because there will be expensive food and drinks, so why not, right? Later that night, they go to the ballroom and it turns out Nano is actually Caesar's fiancée, and he held this party to tell her happy birthday. They all have a dance and Finger snatches Mingfei because he knows he won't get any girls anyways. But later on, the blonde-haired new student that Mingfei has been looking at for a while walks up to him and helps him deliver a great dance, making everyone cheer for them. Once the performance is over, Caesar formally invites Mingfei to stand beside him, but Mingfei says that he needs time to think about it and then goes out to look for Nano, who took her leave earlier to catch some fresh air. Outside, she invites him to drive her to the top of a hill, and they both drive away. Meanwhile, the college goes into high security alert as 13 intruders infiltrate the facility, and it looks like they are after the cocoon they retrieved from the Dragon King's palace. Caesar and Zheng gather their groups and are stationed at key positions to capture the intruders, while the rest of the faculty and students are put on duty as well. They manage to quickly catch 7 of the 13 intruders, but none of them reveal the identity of their leader, claiming that they never got to see their face. With most of the elite students out on missions, the principal and Professor Man decide to request his father, the Night Watcher, to undo the spirit language seal so they can use their powers and protect the college. The request goes through, and with that the enemy is also able to use their spirit language to hide their presence from everyone. 4 of them walk inside Caesar's place alongside their leader to keep him busy, while one blonde-haired girl is sent to deal with Zheng and one comedic relief character is tasked with the most important mission of retrieving the cocoon. I'm sure there is nothing wrong with those role assignments, right? The leader reveals her identity as Mai, and she is the Sister Aki, one of the people who died in the last mission to retrieve the cocoon from the Dragon King's palace. She says that it has nothing to do with her sister and they are there to simply fulfill their mission as given by their employer. Caesar uses his spirit language called Scythe, which enables him to detect and react to even the smallest of movements in an area around him. With this ability, he manages to cull down their numbers, and at the end only Caesar and Mai are left to face off against each other. Mai has the ability to conceal her presence and use super speedy movement to deliver precise strikes to kill the enemy like an assassin. It's the complete opposite of Caesar's ability, and their clash ends up in a draw when Caesar manages to block all her strikes but barely. On the other hand, Ziheng is revealed to have one of the most pure bloodlines among the students beside Mingfei, and his spirit language is the ability called Dragon King's Flames, an ability to set anything around him on fire and to control it. It turns out, the blonde girl on the enemy's side also has this rare ability, and it becomes an equal clash of flames. Meanwhile, the comedic relief guy manages to make his way to the underground chamber where the AI resides. Thanks to information from her, he manages to reach the underground research facility where the cocoon is kept, but on his way he accidentally loses his phone and also opens a locked door that was supposedly there since 1912. At the end, he sneaks inside the facility and sees the principal showcasing the cocoon to the researchers there, and they all notice that there is a crack on the cocoon, and from the CT scan report they find out that it was formed due to the hatching process instead of an accident as they had presumed. The scientists try to dissect the cocoon to see if there is anything living inside, but the principal threatens them and tells them to go out because they can't risk unleashing a dragon on the college. As the principal escorts them out, the comedic relief guy sneaks in and takes pictures of the cocoon and decides to break the case and take it with him for the $5 million cash he will receive as reward, but at the end, he loses his balls thanks to the illusions that he gets from being too close to the cocoon, and he decides to walk back empty-handed. But to everyone's surprise, a shadowy figure walks in after him and breaks the seal himself and feeds the cocoon some of his blood to unleash the Dragon King, Constantine. Back at the college, Caesar and Mai's fight ends up in a draw when a massive blast pushes them both away, and it leaves the area without electricity. They walk up to see what caused it and find burning footprints on the ground indicating that it could have been the doing of Ziheng and the other girl. While all this is happening, our boy Mingfei is enjoying a ride up the hill with his hot friend, Nano. On his way, he gets a vision from Mings who tells him that he can help him capture Nano's heart if he wants to, and then tells him to stop being such a chicken and to follow her advice from earlier and bring her a gift for her birthday. He decides on giving her flowers, and Ming says that he will make it happen. Later on, they sit down with their feet and spring on top of the hill, and Mings tells him that she wants him to join the student union so he can be her little brother and she will protect him. Mingfei thinks about it and asks her about Caesar, and she tells him that it was a political marriage and in the end she is her own person. He tells her that he knows about Iki and the other guy's deaths and that they were close to her. She says that it wasn't only them and that her mentor, Mance, also died, but he kept it a secret from the students and wished for it to be only whispered to her so it doesn't reduce the morale of everyone else. She says that in the end everyone will die, but she comes here every once in a while to see if she can see the stars, but tonight it's cloudy. Mingfei feels sad for her and decides to use the keyword that Mings told him about. It suddenly the car lights turn on and music starts playing and fireworks start exploding in the sky in the shape of flowers with a message between the clouds reading, "Happy Birthday Nano," spelled in a way that only her mother used to know. This makes her cry, and Mingfei realizes that she misses her dead mother, and that's why she felt sympathetic towards him earlier when they first met, because he was crying over his parents as well. He looks at her and tells her that from now on he is his younger brother and will join the student union. After that, they both get back in the car and start driving down to the college, and Nano finally gets some signals and receives Caesar's message telling her that the college is under attack. Mingfei starts panicking about it, but Nano tells him that the college should be fine and most likely by the time they reach back, the fight will be over. Meanwhile, Ziheng and the blonde girl are fighting to a stalemate with their fire powers, and it looks like the girl has the upper hand, but she doesn't want to kill the guy and is only there to stall him. On the other hand, the comedic relief guy drives off on a bike and makes his way out of the college, but then suddenly gets hit by Mingfei's car from behind. He takes Mingfei hostage and they both come face to face, and it turns out that the guy is actually Mingfei's League of Legends friend, Tyler, and his real name is Tang. We all thought it was Tyler 1, but he turned out to be Tyler Wan. They both recognize each other and start getting all chummy, but then he asks for Mingfei's help and he lets him be taken as a hostage. Just then, they hear something crashing down behind them and it starts feeling really hot for some reason. They turn around and find out that it's some boy covered in flames walking like some zombie from The Walking Dead towards them asking for his brother. They all run away from him and the students start shooting at him only to have their bullets melt down just before it reaches the boy. The professors deduce that the boy is actually a dragon king that hatched from the cocoon, and he is the dragon king of fire and bronze that can manipulate fire and bronze around him, making the bullets useless. The kid keeps walking forward while looking for his brother and Mingfei, and the other hides behind a pillar and eventually meets up with Caesar, Mai, and Finger. They all have a hunch that the kid is after Mingfei, and they hide inside a pool to keep the fire kid away while Caesar and Mai stay out to fight it and then retreat after getting some info on his weaknesses. While all this is happening, Mai's contractor calls her and tells her that the boy is actually the Dragon King Constantine, and he is in an unstable state right now and soon his body will disintegrate, which will result in a storm strong enough to make the nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki look like fireworks. To that end, she suggests that they use the fake bullets that they use for their practices at the college because there is no metal in them, and while it won't hurt the kid, if they shoot him enough, they might be able to knock him out. They all get this info and start shooting the kid with the rubber bullets while Mingfei and the others hide like cowards inside the pool. While inside, Mingfei feels like the kid is gonna walk, and so he tells the other two, and they all hold their breath and hide inside the water. Mingfei holds his breath for a while but then comes up only to find himself in another world. He thinks about it for a while but then says that it must be one of those dreams where he meets Mings and starts calling out to him. He gets out of the pool and walks through a valley and finds a young boy there and asks him what this place was. The kid turns around and it turns out to be Constantine, and he says that he has a feeling that they have met before somewhere. Constantine starts sniffing him like a maniac, and just then Mings arrives and kicks him away and tells him to find someone else to call brother. Just then Mingfei wakes up and finds out that Constantine was actually there and Finger and Tang are not there in the pool anymore. Soon, the principal walks in and tells Mingfei to come with him. He takes him to a high tower and gives him a gun and a special dragon killing bullet. He says that he wants him to use this bullet to kill the dragon, and only he can do it thanks to his high-grade bloodline, and anyone else would collapse under his ability. After that, he says that he will go on and make an opening for him so he can kill Constantine. Meanwhile, Constantine is being bombarded by rubber bullets while on top of a tower, and he looks down to see Tang and Finger, and it turns out he was actually after Tang and not Mingfei. He starts losing control over his powers and transforms into his true dragon form, but then the principal jumps in and uses his special technique Time Zero to slow down everything around him and cuts open a wound for Mingfei to aim it and end the battle. Mingfei takes the shot with some help from Mings and nullifies the dragon's powers. After that, the principal orders everyone to shift to real bullets to rip the lizard full of holes. Constantine rushes down and stands in front of Tang and blocks all the bullets for him and calls him brother till the end. Tang doesn't know what he is saying and starts running away into the forest, but on his way he starts getting visions from his previous life and finally realizes that he is actually the Dragon King of Fire and Bronze. Norton and Constantine was his younger brother. Having seen his brother die in front of him, he goes back to the underwater palace and starts recovering his strength and awakens his servant, Sea Dragon, as well. On the other hand, the principal has a meeting with the Night Watcher and reveals that the reason they can't truly kill dragons is because they create these cocoons before they die with all their DNA, and it eventually hatches into a new Dragon King. That's why, to make sure that they truly end a Dragon King, they need to make them mad and ready to fight when they have not created this cocoon, and as it requires time to mature. This is the perfect time to kill Norton, as he has just awoken and is yet to recover all his strength. With that in mind, they plan for an attack on the palace to kill him and form a team consisting of Caesar, Nano, Mingfei, and the new blonde student from earlier. At first, Mingfei is totally against it, but with some encouragement from Nano and the others, he finally accepts the mission and starts training with everyone else to make sure he is ready. After his mini training arc is done, he boards the airship and they all go to the Dragon King's palace, and Nano and Mingfei are chosen to go down and explore the area and confirm the Dragon King's presence, as he is supposed to be hibernating due to his immature awakening. They both go down and follow the same path as Iki and her partner, Yu, did before. They eventually reach the Dragon King's chamber and search the place, and with some psychological techniques manages to confirm that the place was indeed the Dragon King's room where he used to live with his younger brother, Constantine. After that, they take some stuff to research and make their way back to the surface, but while doing so, the city starts shifting just like how it did at Iki and use time, and it becomes a race against time and traps to get out. On their way, they find Yu's corpse holding a massive book as well, and they retrieve it and eventually get out after having Mingfei's swimming gear destroyed. Nano gives him her gear and says that she can make the rest of the way up on her own, and they both start swimming up. Meanwhile, the airship is attacked by the Sea Dragon and it destroys one of the engines. Caesar takes control and orders them to run away from it, but the Sea Dragon keeps chasing after them and leads them towards a cliff with Norton standing on top of it. Norton jumps down and rides the Sea Dragon and then uses his powers to combine with it and become a massive Pokémon. Let's call him Tangmon. Tang Mon starts chasing the airship to take them down, and Caesar decides to fight back instead when he finds out the Zihang is also there thanks to his scythe ability. He makes a plan to distract Tang Mon in a one-on-one and then strike him with a powerful attack from Zihang. When their abilities clash, it will cause a massive explosion, blinding anyone looking at it, but then at that point, they will launch a special missile at Norton's real body and destroy him. Just like that, they throw down a rescue pod for Mingfei and Nano and start fighting the Pokémon in front of them. Caesar puts on a blindfold and activates his ability to aim at the dragon. Tang Mon deflects all the bullets like some Chinese Opus character, but it's all according to Caesar's plan, and he eventually releases his technique to reveal Zihang, who attacks Norton from above with his King Flames. Norton responds by firing back a similar attack, and as predicted, the explosion blinds them all except for Caesar, who had a blindfold on, and he commands the blonde girl to launch the missile on his command. The missile hits Norton's real body and sends the fusion to the depths of the ocean, marking their victory. Meanwhile, Mingfei and Nano find the escape pod, and Nano pushes Mingfei in and locks the door. Mingfei wonders what she is doing, but just then the drowning Tang Mon pierces through her chest with one of its stingers and makes her join the Dead Donut Gang. Looking at his only chance at losing his virginity right in front of him, Mingfei starts throwing a tantrum and goes kind of crazy. This makes him enter the inner realm, where he meets Mings, who offers to help him defeat the Dragon King and save his potential wife. Mingfei becomes interested in his words but feels really mad at himself for being this worthless piece of failure. He always lets others save him and can't do anything to help others back, but then with some help from Mings, he uses the most opus jutsu in the history of DOTA, Talk No Jutsu. He uses the famous Talk No Jutsu on himself and cures his depression, something that none of you watching has been able to cure yet. With that out of the way, Mings tells him that he can make a demonic pact with him where he will grant 4 of his wishes and let him save Nano and defeat the Dragon King in exchange for the right to own his life and body if he ever claims to feel lonely and a portion of his own life. Mingfei accepts the terms, and Mings uses his power to give him lots of opus abilities, like using all kinds of spirit languages and some stat boosts. He also tells him about the book he is holding that he got from you, and says that it is actually the container for 7 weapons known as the 7 deadly sins that were ironically created by Norton himself long ago to kill humans. With everything in place, Mingfei comes out of the escape pod and rescues Nano. He can breathe underwater now thanks to his new abilities, and he heals Nano's wound and destroys the spike that is poking out of her stomach. He puts her in the escape pod and sends it back up, and then faces Norton, who is ready to eat him like fish food. Mingfei uses Spirit Block to seal his techniques and then unleashes the 7 deadly sins to fight the massive Pokémon. Their battle continues for quite some time as they exchange blows and strikes, and eventually Norton acknowledges him as an equal and decides to play it smart and hides away. He plans to strike him from the shadows and take him down, but Mingfei uses Scythe to find his location and manages to counterattack and comes face to face with his real body. When he looks at his face, he realizes that it is actually his friend, Tyler Tang, and he becomes really sad. He can't bring himself to deliver the final strike but lets Norton grab him by his neck. Ming says that he has always been a softie and takes control over his body and stabs Norton with one of the 7 deadly sins, letting him drown to his demise. Back on the surface, Caesar and the others rescue Nano and give her first aid and medical treatment. The blonde-haired girl, Zero, finds Mingfei floating on the ocean's surface as well and goes down to rescue him and brings him atop the airship as well. Meanwhile, Norton decides to use his dying breath to launch a final attack, but Mai shoots him down with the dragon-killing bullet as per her role in this mission, and just like that, Norton's chapter comes to an end. After all is said and done, the principal calls for Mingfei and has a meeting with him on their way back to the college. He explains who Tang was and reveals how Dragon Kings form this cocoon with their DNA to form new bodies to revive into. Tang was Norton's revived body, and when he saw his brother die in front of him, his true memories started coming back to him and he was revived as Norton. Mingfei listens to all of this but still feels sad about his only online friend and then just nods, implying that he understands. The principal tells him to not feel bad about killing him and that he saved millions if not billions of lives, and then asks him to keep all of this a secret as they don't know how Norton actually died. He says that Caesar's plan was amazing but it shouldn't have been enough to put Norton down, and then somehow Nano and he comes back alive as well. He's sure that there is something he is hiding from them as well, and Mingfei thinks back on his contract with Mings and says that he understands and thanks him for not questioning him further. After that, The principal hands him a letter and says that they received it from an unknown address and it is meant for him, and he opens it to find out that it is from his mother, and she tells him how she is sad for not being there for him and how she is proud of him and that she and his father wishes to come visit him when he graduates from the college. Mingfei starts crying and then takes his leave. Later on, Mingfei returns to the college and talks to Finger and starts complaining about him posting sassy news and articles about him on the college's site. Just then, they hear a knock on the door and open it to find Caesar in a cooking dress asking for some sugar. Finger gives him some and reveals that Caesar and Seheng moved to the dorms alongside Nano and the vice president of the Lionheart Society. Nano comes by and gives Mingfei a chocolate and tells him that they are making more in the room. Finger immediately rushes out and starts hogging all the chocolate like his lonely ass, and Nano asks Mingfei if he will join them for dinner. Mingaifai says he has some other plans and then walks back inside, and just then he receives mail from someone. He opens the package and finds a smartphone inside and wonders if he's having some sort of deja vu. He turns it on and finds a message in it. He opens it and finds out that it was sent to him from Ming's, and he confirms the agreement and contract that they made and takes his price of 1/4 of his life for the power-ups he granted him in the last fight against Norton and to save Nano. Besides that, he tells him to keep the phone safe as he will fly to him if he ever sends him a message for help. Mingfei says that he just needs to not use the wishes and then he will be able to live across his friends all his life, and decides to live his college life to the fullest. Meanwhile, in the principal's office, we see that he has a picture of Mingfei and Ming's and he seems to know who they actually are. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this and want to see more, please make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on so you never miss a future video. And until next time guys, take care.